Welcome to this interview practice session where today we'll take a look at 50 questions and model answers focused on the sustainability competency. And this competency falls under the RICS mandatory competencies and is applicable to all pathways, and the following questions and model answers are really designed to cover this area in detail to help candidates feel better prepared for their final assessment interview. We should also note that the RICS are about to overhaul their existing rules of conduct and global professional and ethical standards, with the new rules of conduct being effective from the 2nd of February 2022. This is expected to be an extremely hot topic for APC interviews going into next year, and we should note that one of the key reasons for introducing the changes cited by the RICS was to support with tackling global challenges, with the new rules placing added importance on creating sustainable development and tackling climate change. So clearly sustainability is high on the agenda for the RICS, so candidates need to pay close attention to this competency. So without further ado, let's go straight into the Q&A practice. And the first question we'll take a look at under this competency is what are the most common environmental issues experienced on construction sites? And to address this, we could first of all make reference to the risk of land degradation, and usually large projects entail extensive land disturbance which makes the soil vulnerable to erosion, and soil removed may become airborne and create dust problems or be carried into natural waterways. There is also a great risk to flora and fauna, where the biological environment includes various species of animals and plant life and their habitats, and these can be severely damaged by construction activities. We could also make reference to the risks of water pollution, air pollution, land contamination, noise and vibrations, high energy usage and emissions of CO2, high wastage production into landfill, and also the release of dangerous gases and materials. The next question we'll take a look at is what regulations and codes of practice are you aware of that affect sustainability within construction? To address this, we could make reference to the Agricultural Land Act, the Building Act, which enforces the building regulations, the Clean Air Act, which gives local authorities power to control air pollution, the Climate Change Act, which is a legally binding commitment to cut emissions and greenhouse gases, the Energy Act, where it's now unlawful to rent out residential or business premises that do not reach a minimum energy efficiency standard, the Environmental Protection Act, which sets out regulations regarding the controlled disposal of household, industrial and commercial waste, the Flood and Water Management Act, and the Wildlife and Countryside Act. We may also be asked a question on what procedures our own firm implements in order to promote sustainability. And to address this will obviously be specific to your own company, but we could make reference to recycling of cardboard, paper and plastics, the use of energy efficient lighting systems, for example motion sensors, the use of energy efficient equipment, for example LED lamps and energy efficient monitors, the use of electric company vehicles, cycle to work schemes, reducing printing by using cloud-based systems, charitable contributions to tree planting and environmental programs, and the sign up to green initiatives and codes of practice, for example using office space with high EPC and BREEAM ratings. The next question we'll take a look at is checking our understanding of the Paris Agreement, and to address this we can say that the Paris Agreement is a legally binding international treaty concerning climate change. It was adopted by nearly every nation and came into effect in 2016. The goal of the Paris Agreement is to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius whilst targeting levels below 1.5 degrees Celsius when compared to pre-industrial levels. The agreement commits all major emitting countries to cut their climate pollution, and it also creates a framework for the transparent monitoring and reporting of each individual country's progress. The next question we'll take a look at is checking our understanding of sustainable building methods that are available. And to address this, we could make reference to use of recycled materials such as reclaimed timber, recycled tiles and plastics, the use of ground source heat pumps and air source heat pumps, the use of solar panels, wind turbines, solar shading to prevent solar gain, rainwater harvesting, green roofs, and automated building systems, for example lighting sensors. The next question we'll take a look at is checking our understanding of the term green roofs. To address this, we can say that a green roof is a roof covering that is partially or completely covered with vegetation that is placed over a waterproof membrane. Additional layers such as drainage layers, irrigation systems or root barriers may also be placed over the membrane, and rooftop ponds are an alternative form of green roof which are used to treat grey water. The vegetation, soil, drainage layers, root barriers and irrigation systems are typically the key components of a green roof. Advantages of green roofs are that they absorb rainwater, provide extra insulation, increase biodiversity by providing habitats for wildlife, and are also aesthetically pleasing whilst lowering urban air temperatures. The next question we'll take a look at is what are photovoltaics and how do they work? And to address this, we can say that photovoltaics allow the conversion of sunlight into electricity. Sunlight contains energy known as photons, and when photons hit solar modules within the solar panel, they cause electrons to flow through the bottom layer. The movement of electrons generates electricity that flows to an inverter, and the inverter converts DC electricity into AC that is then used to power the building. The next question is testing our understanding of the term soakaways and how they work, and to address this we can say that soakaways offer a means of surface water drainage attenuation. They consist of large holes or pits that receive surface water from a drainage pipe, and the soakaway allows the collected surface water to gradually infiltrate through the soil. The next question we'll take a look at is testing our understanding of the term carbon neutral, and to address this we can say that carbon neutrality is to have a balance between the carbon emitted and the carbon absorbed from the atmosphere in carbon sinks. This is an important measure of the impact that businesses and projects have on their environment and global warming. And to date, no artificial carbon sinks are able to remove carbon from the atmosphere at the levels required to offset global warming. The next question we'll take a look at is checking our understanding of the term solar gain, and to address this we can say that solar gain is a name given to the increase in temperature within a space, object or structure due to solar radiation. A building can retain this solar gain by having high thermal mass, or it can avoid it by using reflective materials and insulation. We may also be asked a follow-on question to this, checking our understanding of how solar gain can be managed within buildings, and to address this we can say that we would limit the size and area of openings such as doors and windows. We could use solar shading or orientating doors and windows away from direct sunlight, and use reflective materials on the glass and building fabric. We could also use insulating walls and roof spaces to prevent indirect solar gains into the building. The next question we'll take a look at is how does a ground source heat pump work, and to address this we can say that heat from the ground is absorbed at low temperature into a fluid inside of a loop or pipe buried underground. The fluid then passes through a compressor that raises it to a high temperature, which can then heat water for the heating and hot water circuits of the building. The cooled ground loop fluid passes back into the ground where it absorbs further energy from the ground in a continuous process as long as heating is required. We may also be asked a question of our understanding of the term SUDS, and to address this we can say that the term SUDS stands for Sustainable Drainage Systems, and these allow surface water to be managed as close to source as possible by allowing surface water to infiltrate into the ground where it is collected and then managed passively. SUDS will slow down surface water runoff by allowing it to infiltrate and soak into natural contours and landscapes. And SUDS are considered to be environmentally friendly as they do not rely on the manufacture of plastic or clay drainage components, and instead utilise natural vegetation and material to absorb surface water. SUDS rely on a number of management practices, controls and strategies to efficiently and sustainably drain surface water whilst minimising pollution and managing the impact on local bodies of water. And this is an example of a SUDS design where we can see that natural vegetation is being used to manage surface water runoff by the use of vegetation, natural contours and landscapes. We may also be asked a question of our understanding of the benefits of a BREEAM certified building. To address this, we can say that BREEAM buildings help clients to benefit from lowering the running costs of their built assets and minimising the impact on the environment through consideration at planning, design, construction and operation phases. Other benefits include greater marketability to building tenants through lower running costs and creating desirable places to work and live. A higher building value and positive PR message is also achieved through the increased sustainability of the building, particularly when achieving BREEAM Excellent and Very Good ratings. We may also be asked a question of our understanding of rainwater harvesting and what benefits this can bring, and to address this we can say that it reduces the need for imported water. It promotes both water and energy conservation, whilst also improving the quality and quantity of groundwater. It can also be used to achieve improved BREEAM compliance, whilst lowering operational costs and reducing environmental impact. We may also be asked a question of our understanding of the term EPC, and to address this we can say that this stands for Energy Performance Certificates, which were introduced in 2007 and are now a legal requirement for a building to be sold, let or constructed, and once obtained an EPC is valid for 10 years. The most efficient built assets typically have the lowest fuel bills and are in Band A. EPCs are rated on a scale of A to G. The energy efficiency of the built asset along with potential improvements are listed, and the EPC will also show the amount of CO2 emissions produced by the property in tonnes and will also advise on the amount that this could be reduced by. We may also be asked a question of our understanding of the sustainable initiatives being undertaken by the RICS. And to address this, we could firstly make reference to SKA ratings, which encourage green codes of practice for commercial properties. More recently, we can refer to the fact that the RICS have now launched the Value the Planet campaign and committed to forming a climate change expert panel in order to implement the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. And we could also say that the RICS has launched a responsible business report filled with solutions for companies to operate in a greener capacity regardless of a firm's size. And this includes introducing higher recycling rates and reducing energy, transport and water use where possible. We may also be asked a question on the procedures that we implement in order to promote sustainability. And to address this, we can say that we're always sure to print only when necessary. We could make reference to car sharing, use of energy efficient equipment, recycling, cycle to work schemes, being careful to minimise waste, avoiding the use of plastic bottles where possible, and the use of cloud-based sharing systems over physically stored files.
Level overarching question asking what sustainability is. And to address this, we can give a definition such as sustainability is to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The next question we'll take a look at is what are the key principles of sustainability? And to address this, we could first of all make reference to the social principles. For example, building healthy communities with sufficient numbers and range of buildings. We could make reference to the economical principles, for example, building strong, responsive, competitive economies, ensuring sufficient land and right types. We could also make reference to environmental sustainability, contributing to protection and enhancing our natural built and historic environment. The next question we'll take a look at is what regulations and codes of practice govern the construction industry's approach to sustainability. And to address this, we could reference the Part L of the building regulations. We could also refer to the Code for Sustainable Homes and Buildings. We could make reference to EPCs or Energy Performance Certificates. We could also make reference to Site Waste Management Plans. And finally, BREEAM and any other environmental assessment methods. We may also be asked a question on the purpose of site waste management plans and when they apply. And to address this, we could say that these came into force on the 6th of April 2008. And they are compulsory to prepare a site waste management plan for any construction project with an estimated cost of above £300,000. And the concept is that by making us aware of how much waste is being produced, contractors can then take steps to minimise and reduce that waste. The plan must be regularly updated on how much waste is being produced and recycled so that lessons can be learned. We may also be asked a question on our knowledge of the different assessment methods for measuring sustainability. And to address this, we can make reference to BREEAM, SKA ratings, LEED, and whole life carbon assessments. We may also be asked a question on our knowledge of any legislation relating to sustainability, and to address this we could make reference to landfill tax, which is the tax of any disposal of waste, and this is charged by weight. We could also make reference to the climate change levy, which was introduced by the 2000 Finance Bill, and this is a tax on any energy used in order to promote energy efficiency. We may also be asked a question on our knowledge of BREEAM. We could say that BREEAM stands for the Building Research Establishment Environmental Assessment Method. We would need to explain that this sets out the best practice standards for the environmental performance of buildings through specification, design, construction and operation. We would need to say that this is undertaken by a licensed assessor, and this is based on energy, land and ecology, water, health and well-being, pollution, materials and waste and management. This applies to new and refurbished buildings. This includes both domestic and non-domestic projects. We may also be asked a question on our knowledge of SKA ratings, and to address this we can say that these apply to non-domestic fit-out projects, for example office refurbishments. And this is a RICS environmental assessment method. It assesses fit-out projects against a set of sustainability good practice criteria, known as good practice measures, and implements as an alternative to BREEAM, which can be considered to be fairly high cost and sometimes to produce unsatisfactory results. We may also be asked a question on our knowledge of LEED, which is a life cycle assessment, and this stands for the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and this is the US equivalent of BREEAM. The ratings are silver, gold